Alright, so let's jump into this 200 plus victory point run. I'm just going to highlight some of the key points on how I pushed this as far as I did along the way. It's pretty long though, so I'm just going to go over key points. So starting off early here, we're going to play Inventor's Guild right away, and throughout the run I'm going to try and use it as much as possible to cycle cards I don't want, to avoid paying the extra 3 credits each time. I know exactly which cards are going to come in exactly which order, so I'm going to try and order my card draws to only keep in hand exactly what I need. And here we get AI Central nice and early. This is going to be top priority for getting out. I'm going to get it out at the end of Gen 3, prioritizing it above everything else, including even space hotels, because we want to dig the deck as quick as possible. All the discount cards, Earth Catapult, Research Outpost, and Anti-Grav are not too far in the deck, so we're going to make an effort to play those before the end of Gen 8, because those will allow us to just snowball into a massive engine. And another key pickup early here is Mars University. You're going to see me cycling a lot of otherwise pretty good cards. You already saw me skip breathing filters, but we're going to be so low on cash early, just digging for the discount cards, that we really can't afford to keep too many extra point cards early on. Once we get to those cards, you'll see that I have pretty much exactly enough money to play the discounts, and then continue on with the game once I build the engine. See, here you're gonna notice that I played Solar Wind Power to keep an energy production, to use Development Center every generation, over playing Space Hotels, and I actually need to do that because to get out Anti-Grav the round I do draw it, it's the last possible card that I could draw this early. So I need every single card draw I can get early on. Here I'm just checking my notes, making sure I didn't miss any cards before passing the next generation. You'll see lots of times the screen just sits still, and in general, it's just looking at the list of cards. Throughout the entire game, we're going to draw probably about 180 cards total, and play a good number of them. For events alone, we're going to play, I think, 23 events, which just shows the absolute value that Media Group provides, about a 60 coin profit. And we're going to pass on Strip Mine here. We have plenty of O2 later in the game. We're going to have viral enhancers and about every plant card we could ever imagine having, except for insects. So it really provides no VP, and energy is going to be at a premium later in the game. We're going to spend every one of our energy production. And for the same reason, I'm also going to pass up on Physics Complex, because I do not believe there's a single generation in which I actually have 6 energy stored. Cool. So here we're gonna get research outpost out. We're doing it before Earth Catapult because it's a little cheaper, and we're gonna utilize its placement next to that titanium resource to get out mining area. It nets us a couple extra coins earlier and an extra draw early as well due to Mars U. And here you can see the previous run that I screwed up. Just clearing that off my screen. This is not the first time I've attempted to record this. And this round we're going to get anti-grav out. We're actually, despite drawing Earth Catapult first, it's actually going to be the last of the discount cards we play, solely because it's the most expensive. And here you see there's the last card draw. Digging just deep enough to grab anti-grav this early. And playing it this generation will actually allow us to get us a couple cards, a couple more bucks, being able to play Psychrophiles for free. And building industries. And Search for Life here is actually going to be a big pickup that I missed in my early runs. But we're going to use it, much like Inventors Guild, to draw bad cards and cycle deeper into the deck, which will become very apparent, the value of that in our final generation. I'm also going to cheese it in just a second here, knowing that there's a microbe card coming up in 1 or 2 draws. So it's 3 points for a single coin. And you can see here I'm struggling to decide which card to throw out. In the past, I just threw out Fitz's Complex without thinking about it. However, this run I was experimenting a little bit, and I was considering holding on to it to see if it would ever be feasible to play for 2 points, since later we draw CEO's favorite project. It would net us an extra point off of that. Additionally, it would be an extra card draw and a half if we did it after Olympus Conference, which we will also draw into later. But ultimately, I will end up scrapping it. And there's a free microbe. Okay, so Gen 8. Gen 8 here is where we really kickstart our engine. So far, we've just been slowly accumulating cards. We have a fair amount of metal income, but compared to what we're going to have at the end generation, it is essentially nothing. We're going to skyrocket our credit production soon using Cartel and Miranda Resort, which I've actually been saving for a fair amount of time because recently we drew into Nuclear Zone sponsors, and soon we're also going to draw into Research Coordinator before we play those Earth multipliers. So each of those is going to net us 8 for a total of 16 production. I'm actually going to skip out on stacking on media archives right now because that would net us for a cost of 3 currently, 5 events and 2 production, which is about 15 coins. However, when we play in the last generation, it's going to give us a net profit of about 33 coins, or 23 coins, sorry. So it's best to hold on to that for the time being. And at this point, I'm starting to just hoard a lot of cards, waiting for some key effects. So I'm going to be hoarding plants, microbes, animal tags in preparation for viral enhancers. I'm going to be holding on to a couple Earth tags for Earth Office. Um, and I'm also going to be holding almost all my space events for optimal arrow breaking, which is something that we're going to have to dig very hard for. And then also these science cards we're going to hold on to until we get to Olympus Conference, so we can just get a couple more draws. And you can see here I'm a little frustrated because in past runs I've had enough to play Cartel since I would do media archives previously. However, now that I'm holding on to it, I'm actually a coin short, so I'm deciding which card to sell. Ultimately, I'm going to end up choosing Lichen, but it being only 2 coins and worth 4 plants, I wasn't too excited about that either. Or maybe I threw a Heather here. Um, I'm having trouble recalling. I recorded this last night. Um, if I throw a Heather, that's a big mistake. Obviously, Heather is superior to Lichen, but there's a couple of small improvements I could have made throughout this run. However, them being almost an hour each, the small improvements are tough to warrant the time input. Yeah, so I do end up selling Heather here, which is a small mistake. All right, so now we're cooking here. Um, our income has skyrocketed, and in subsequent generations, we're also going to dig for both medical labs and robotic workforce, which will yield another 10 production each time. Here, I believe I'm contemplating buying a subterranean reservoir. In the past, I purchased it. However, upon digging deeper in my previous run, I've actually found more ocean cards. Um, so I decided to skip it. However, it actually runs me into a little bit of trouble. Um, I think in Gen 10, the end of Gen 10, I have adaptation technology, but only three oceans. And in the past, I've played kelp farming early. So finding where to slot in that fourth ocean was done on the fly. And so here I'm noticing that I have magnetizer, and I'm actually going to be using that every generation um, over physics complex, which I originally threw out just because we're not always at 6 energy. So the physics complex is less viable. Additionally, I was very short on money to purchase cards earlier, whereas now I have a lot more disposable income. Additionally, you saw me throw out NRA, despite having a lot of plant tags. We're actually going to have enough heat as is, and the point at which we could play it is not exactly worth it for the cost. We're going to have a lot of space cards. We're going to draw a lot of Jovians very, 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 very late. So ultimately, I don't think it's worthwhile. It might net one more greenery, but the heat produced by optimal arrow breaking is not important. Temperature step is not important, and the terraforming ends up being more expensive than similar things like inert gases that we have left over. And so here I'm trying really hard to draw into Olympus Conference before the end of the generation. But try as I might, it's just a little bit out of reach. I'll have to play at the start of Gen 10. Yeah, so after contemplating if it's worth drawing into Olympus Conference generation early, I decided to just bite the bullet and do Giant Ice Asteroid now in preparation for meeting a lot of global requirements that I'm going to utilize next round with adaptation technology. So this is the first generation where things start to get very exciting. A lot is going to get played this generation, and it's only going to snowball more and more into the final couple generations. We'll be playing dozens of cards, earning 50 plus points each generation. Cool. And so you can see here, I'm just contemplating which to play first. I know Earth Office is only a couple cards out. However, I don't want to use any of my science cards for draws before getting out Olympus Conference, which has an Earth tag. And I also want to play any Earth tags to draw because Earth Office will give me discounts on them. So I'm just trying to decide if it's possible for me to get Earth Office before anything else. And after the long loading times for all these cards on mobile, you'll see I have just enough draws to get here for free, which was very relieving. Every card draw counts. There's in the final generation, there's a cutoff that you have to meet to draw into some additional card draw. And if you don't get there, you lose out on 10 to 12 cards probably. So I was making sure that every card draw I could get, I did. So now I'm just playing a large handful of science cards, and I'll also do a lot of animal and plant cards once Viral is played. I'm just doing all the science cards right now to dig for optimal arrow breaking, which is about another dozen cards in, and then I can finally start unloading all of these space events in my hand, which will give me a huge influx of cash. And here I actually decided to sell Zeppelins. Um, by Gen 11, I'm actually going to have a fair number of cities, so I could probably earn all 8 of those coins back. However, I was reluctant to give up any of those energy cards because of energy production that we're going to require in Gen 12 to play things like urbanized area, and then some smaller building tags, which will also give us income. For example, we're going to get Radchem Factory out as well as Fuel Factory, both because they give us a few more resources, but also because they're building tags, and we're soon going to draw into medical labs. And so here I started dumping a bunch of building cards, including power grid, or not power grid, power infrastructure. I forget the name, the one that lets you turn your power into mega credits. I'm going to use it just because I know down the road I'm going to have enough heat, and it'll net me an extra 10 or so coins and a building tag for another half production. So there, I was just deciding, trying to remember if I had a resource on Olympus Conference because I didn't want to throw out any of my existing cards. However, unfortunately, the card I drew into was also not a good discard. So now I'm back to, once again, throwing out cards that I would otherwise like to keep. I think right here I decided to go with either Space Mirrors or Solar Power. And here's another small mistake. I should have played not just farming before putting medical labs out, but now I'm just trying to get plants in preparation to get the oxygen at 3%. I want the oxygen at 3% for shuttles, and then ultimately I think I'm going to want it at 5% to get livestock out as well, using special design, which I'm going to draw into momentarily. And there we go. Shuttles for 1 coin. It's a deal I'll take any day. And soon I'm going to play Lunar Beam. 2 heat and a card draw for 5 coins is a deal I'll most certainly take, especially because the power will both serve as production that I can use in subsequent requirements, and I can turn the actual resources it produces into coins next generation. Here I'm debating if I want to play a space event for the ocean so I can play kelp farming, and I decide to blow the 3 heat, knowing that I'll have at least 3 left over, because in the previous generation I had to, due to a poor timing, had to skip on imported GHG, which gives you 6 heat immediately after optimal is prayed, and I only needed 5 or 3, sorry. So I knew I would have enough at minimum. However, I believe I ended up actually drawing into more than I needed still, regardless. So I believe I did this draw to get special design, if I recall correctly. Yep, so this will let me play livestock a turn earlier, netting me 1 extra animal. And it'll also give me card cycle through my science cards and 4 coins back between media group and media archives. So that's a no-brainer. Cool. So just about now, we're going to start drawing into a lot of Jovians. We just drew into asteroid mining. We're going to draw into Callisto. We're going to draw into Beam from a Thorium Asteroid, Terraforming Ganymede, Vestas Shipyard, and AMC. When I originated this run, I did not dig deep enough to find these remaining Jovians. So in subsequent runs, I made a huge effort to dig as far as possible, as quickly as possible, because the Jovians scale really well in the late game, especially when you have 10 off of every space card or more. Pets was another great pickup, and a reason that I've been waiting to play cities. I actually have far more income than I'm going to be able to spend, even with all my card draw. I'm going to play 4 or 5 standard projects at the end of the game, so I don't mind foregoing production to get another pet on for each city. And here we finally see Optimal, which I'll immediately play and will subsequently spam all my space events and just have a huge influx of both money and heat. And then near the end of this generation, you'll see me drawing to try and dig out both robotic workforce to copy medical labs for more income, more card draw, but also for um, ecological zone, which on my last run through was the final card I managed to draw. And so I'm trying to get to ecological zone before needing to play any more animal cards or plant cards, just to get as many resources for points as possible. And then despite eventually wanting to fill that eastern pocket, I'm going to fill out the left ocean first because on the south side of that line of oceans is a great spot for industrial center, which thinking as far as optimizations might actually not be the best play. Um, I had purchased industrial zone earlier for 3 coins, um, when that spot could be more valuable for greenery, possibly. And here we start to see just the engine all come together, and the beauty is all these, all of our synergies just stack on top of each other. We've played over a dozen cards, and yeah, we have more money than when we started. We're going to continue to get cash back by placing 5 or 6 greeneries here. And business contacts, this is the cutoff point I was talking about earlier. If you can't reach business contacts, um, there's far more cards that are inaccessible, because it lets you look at 4, keep 2, draw an additional one, and you draw into an additional earth card for further draws. So it's a key breakpoint to reach. And in previous games, I hadn't even hit at the end of Gen 12. But with the additional efforts of just drawing as deep as I can, this game I've managed to get it before even starting Generation 12, which is a huge boon. And this is now where I'm contemplating if I want to try and wait for ecological zone, and I think that I can reach it, given how far ahead I am compared to last game. And so here you see me make a bit of a mistake. I really do want to keep decomposers, tundra farming, and imported GHG, I'm going to end up skipping on tundra farming. I need decomposers for imported nitrogen, which we're going to draw into, plus the synergies with my existing plant animal cards and ecological zone. Um, and I need imported GHG for the heat to finish terraforming. Plus it's a card draw and money back. If you're strictly doing 63 TR, it might be better to keep tundra farming, just because you're going to end up with about 80 TR due to terraforming Ganymede and Magnetizer. But old habits of completing the terraforming tracks left me grabbing imported GHG. So here I'm finally starting to fill out that eastern pocket so I can get all these greeneries down. One possible optimization that I never really took the time to look into is putting capital in the pocket instead. Reasoning behind not doing that is I wanted to put urbanized area above it with a standard project city next generation, and just kind of assumed that it'd be more point dense. However, I didn't actually do the math, so that might be another point or two that could be squeezed out. But I'm going to end up putting artificial lake on that far corner, I believe. So there's going to be no wasted space. And imported nitrogen is an amazing grab that I didn't really originally know was in the deck, but it's about 5 points, half a greenery, 2 for the animal, an additional TR, and then 3 on decomposers is 5. For 9, 6 back with 3 heat, it's essentially free. And there we see a huge payoff from Media Archives, which is why I held it from the very start of the game. Vesta for 4 coins with 3-point Projovians. It's another sick grab. And I think I even ended up playing Lake Marineris despite having 8 oceans already. Just because we don't really have enough to spend our money on. So I'm just going to kind of grab points wherever I can find them. So here's the point at which I realized that I cannot reach ecological zone. So I'm going to dump these animal cards, play a couple Jovians with my remaining coins, and then pass Generation 12 to get a new round of card draws. And so here I'm about to make a glaring mistake. I believe I take one of my livestock with predators. I have no idea why the game defaults to taking your own animals, but very frustrating, easily missed opportunity right there for an additional point. But 48 minutes into this run, I'm not prepared to restart over 1 point. So yeah, I was quite close to getting ecological zone, just a few cards off. Um, Satellites is an excellent card that has just come a little bit too late. But ecological zone is the only card I'm going to grab here. There's an unfortunate lull in good cards here, and I grabbed Nitro Moss just in case it's a break point for decomposers or ecological zone. Um, I was really hoping to end up drawing into Noctis or the 4th point per Jovian. I did manage to draw into Noctis City, but unfortunately, I don't believe water import from Europa is reachable in this seed. But the odds are getting pretty good because I draw a good 80% of all cards in the Terraforming Mars deck. So every subsequent draw just became, I just became more and more hopeful, due to it being for about 12 coins being worth, I don't know, 12, 13 points. We put this run close to 250. And here I make sure not to make the same mistake twice. Steal from the neutral player. And not knowing the cards this deep also resulted in me not utilizing Search for Life to its full capacity. Perhaps Water Import from Europa is just one more card deep. My reluctance to possibly waste Search for Life on an excellent card cost me 12, 13 points, which would be fitting because Search for Life is the biggest troll card. And here drawn to Noctis, which is excellent. Grab Fusion Power just for the science cycle. Continuing to hope for better draws because I have far more money than I know how to spend. Another science draw and a free point. And if I was paying attention here, I would not have added a microbe to tardigrades. I would have taken the plant for bioenhancers since I'll only be able to have 3 microbes on there by the end of the generation, which is not a point. Ecological zone is great value. Placement bonuses for a tile in the corner there, and 2 points just by itself because of viral enhancers, plus everything I'm going to play after it. And it goes on decomposers. Still getting a little ridiculous at this point. And more bad card draws, but Noctis is good. And so here I'm going to sell these last cards once I realize that there's no more possible card draw this seed. And then I will dump the Jovians and continue with standard projects at the end. And so there, Terraforming Ganymede is worth an absolutely ridiculous 14 points for us, compared to the relatively low value that these cities are going to yield us at the end here. Looking back, Physics Complex would be an interesting card to try and fit into your hand, just because of the extra science draw it would provide you. And here I make a small mistake, playing that before placing a standard project city in the bottom left pocket there. Since I'll be putting a greenery on that double steal bonus spot, I could have utilized that steal for the national park, which actually is a break point for me getting another standard project greenery. So more points missed there. Yeah, so right here, on that southern side, I could have grabbed 2 more steel before purchasing. But after nearly an hour of playing, I just was glad to be done and have a good score. I actually managed to exceed the 229 I had promised in Discord. So you guys will see the final score in a minute. But yeah, over 180 cards drawn, most likely 154 tags and 110 victory points. Is a pretty ridiculous run to say the least. Definitely the highest score I've seen in solo personally. Yeah, right here you see that I'm 2 coins short of another greenery, which is very unfortunate. And just buy the steel production because why not? And there we have it. Absolutely ridiculous seed. It's by far the best I've played. Point Luna is just the best corporation. So thanks to Third Pacifist for showing me the seed. And there you go, 236. Probably easily get 240 or higher. So hope you guys enjoyed.